Okay, so you've probably heard of the term trust before, and you probably wondered, okay, is that just for like the uber rich, or are all people supposed to have trusts? And I'll tell you, there's not a real clear answer. So the most common type of trust is what's called a revocable living trust. Revocable means it can be changed at any time, and a living trust means is that it's created while you're alive. And for matter of fact purposes, while you're alive, the trust really doesn't do much. It doesn't have much power. However, upon your death, the assets will then pass through the terms of the trust. So there's a few advantages to having and I should say, if you have a trust, you always also have a will. But the opposite is not true. You don't necessarily always have a trust if you have a will. So why would you potentially have a trust in addition to your will? So if you only have a will, your property has to go through a process called probate. There are certain dollar amount thresholds for each state, so you only have to go through probate if your assets are less than that dollar amount. But if not, then your assets have to go through probate. And I'll just tell you, it's not really a fun process. It involves going to the court. It's not a horrible process, but it's not great. So some people put trusts in place so their heirs don't have to go through probate. This is especially important if you own property in multiple states, because you would have to go through probate in each of the states where you have assets. So that is one. Two is for privacy matters. So a will is a public document. Anyone can get access to what it said. So if you have a reason within your family where things need to be more private, the trust is a private document. Another answer to the question, or a reason you might have a trust, is because of, again, more control of your assets. So in the previous video, I mentioned you may have a will that creates a testamentary trust. The same idea is true if you have a revocable living trust, one that's in place right now. It can be used in a very, very similar fashion. So here's my recommendation. I always recommend that people have wills, and then trusts I could sort of take or leave. So if you're at the point where you're getting assets that are well over $300,000 or so, because that's a common threshold for probate, then I do recommend that you go ahead and get a trust in place as well. You should know that when you're adding up the value of those assets, you don't have to include anything that has a beneficiary. So a life insurance policy is not included in that, and neither is an IRA or your 401k, because those all have beneficiary designations. So if your assets get to be larger, then I typically will recommend a trust. Again, you can find an estate planning attorney that can help you with this. We have played a little bit with LegalZoom for both wills and trusts, so you could go on and try to create one online. It's whatever you're the most comfortable with.